Welcome back, everyone. It is now my honor to represent or to introduce our next speaker, Senator John Boozman. Senator Boozman is the ranking member of the Senate Agriculture Committee. He's a fifth generation Arkansan and was first elected to the Senate in 2010. Before that, he represented the people of the 3rd District of Arkansas in the U.S. House of Representatives for 10 years. During his entire tenure in the U.S. Senate, he has been on the Agriculture Committee and served as a conferee on the 2018 Farm Bill Conference Committee. And just this year, he was elevated to the position of ranking Republican on the Senate Ag Committee. Congratulations, Senator Boozman, and welcome to the first ever online NFU convention.
Hey,
Welcome.
Rob. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. And thanks again for taking the time to join us. We'd love to hear a few remarks from you about your perspective there at the Agriculture Committee. We just heard earlier today from Senator Stabenow, but some of the committee's priorities from your perspective, as well as pandemic recovery and any other priorities that you have.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rob. And thanks for all you guys do. You are such a big force in agriculture and really do a tremendous job. And I think a tremendous voice also for the small producer, and really constantly warning about policies that lead to the diminishing of our small farmers. So again, thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity of being with you today. What I would like to do, I've had the ability to be on the committee now for several years. And the good thing is that we have a long history, not just in those years, but for many, many years of being bipartisan. And as you know, agriculture is really not about Republicans and Democrats. It's different regions, it's different commodities. Again, all of those kind of things. And I think what we've learned in the last couple of farm bills is that if we don't come together, if we don't do a pretty good job of satisfying everyone, getting a bill that everyone can live with, it simply doesn't work. And so we've worked really hard to do that. As a result of the last farm bill, we had a record number of votes in the Senate and in the House. And part of that also was, I think we as members doing a good job of explaining the difficult situation that the ag community's been in for the last several years. And then also organizations like you that do such a tremendous job educating members, educating the public, and then getting your members fired up, which is so very important. So again, I think we had a good result. So my commitment is to continue that. Certainly, we're going to miss Senator Roberts, who had a tremendous partnership with Chairman Stabenow. We were able to get together and passed Secretary Vilsack, former Secretary, now Secretary Vilsack, again, in a pretty interesting situation. We hadn't really even organized, but we just basically said, we're going to do this. And not only did we have his hearing, but actually passed him out on the same day. And he got caught up in the impeachment process and all of those kind of things. So we were it took us a while to get it done. But I think that, he's got the track record, I think, to do a good job. We look forward to working with him closely, and I know that you all do also. The COVID relief packages, again, everyone working together. We've provided a tremendous amount of aid for the farm community over the last couple of years. We were in a situation going into the trade wars with low commodity prices to begin with, lost a bunch of market as a result of the trade wars. On the other hand, I think the president got their attention, and right now, if they continue to adhere to the deal, the Chinese, then that we're actually doing very, very well. We constantly need to look for new markets. 40% of the agriculture products in Arkansas are exported. I think that's true of most of our states, depending on the commodity. But we're very interested in places like Cuba. We'd like to get something done with the UK, the EU, and Asia. So there's lots of opportunities, lots of middle income people all over the world that I think would benefit from American products. the supply chain we learned so much about during the pandemic. I mean, the restaurant stuff and the grocery store stuff, and then again, the vulnerability of things being so concentrated in some sectors. Supply chain didn't break, but it bent. And so that's one of the things I think we really need to do is to look back, see what the situation was, how we can make it better in the future. Right now, we have on-time delivery. Back in the old days, you used to have warehouses and things like that to store commodities and this and that for local consumption. Now the new warehouses are the trucks on the road. And so again, just lots of things going on, and then some consolidation. I know that we're working hard. There's some bills and some monies perhaps that will be available. Even more so, we put some in the December package, and to try and get more competition locally with the continued interest in trying to get some local competition regarding livestock meat products. Broadband is we've had all this tragedy as a result of the COVID situation, but one thing we learned was that telemedicine, which is so great for rural America, I believe, telecommuting, teleeducation, all of these things are so very important. We used to think in terms of the 3 R's: roads, railroads, and runways. Now, and you throw in water infrastructure with that, you simply aren't going to grow, you aren't going to move forward unless you have broadband. So lots of dollars are being spent in that regard. Our co-ops are starting to pick this up in the state. I think the circumstances are such, the movement is a lot like rural electrification, which went on all the way into the 1950s in many of our states. The ag economy certainly is picking up a little bit. That's a good thing. Commodity prices are up. And so I know that as I talk to farmers all over the country, and certainly within the state of Arkansas, everybody wants to be able to make a living on the farm and not be dependent on some sort of government intervention. And so I had a good talk with the secretary the other day, and we were talking about the fact that such a high percent, 80, 90% of the people that farm, have other jobs. And so it should be that you should be able to make a living, certainly on the farm. Climate change, the current administration has tremendous interest in that. We all have significant, tremendous interest, but it really does seem to be, kind of a number one priority. And so as we go forward regarding that, I know you all are also very interested in that. I think what I would like to see, I think as you would like to see too, is to make sure that whatever we do is voluntary. And then also make sure that when it comes time that people profit from the venture, that agriculture doesn't not profit as much as other people. And it always seems that agriculture gets squeezed a little bit. So that's kind of the areas that I'm looking at. I don't want it to be such that we get it forced into programs where if you don't participate, somehow you're not being climate sensitive or this or that, it's held against you. Certainly I have concerns about crop insurance being linked to, if you're participating in some sort of program or the ARC PLC programs, all of those kind of things. So we just need to see how that evolves. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for agriculture going forward. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the nation. We're all interested in clean water and clean air and all of those kind of things. On the other hand, it needs to be done right. We don't want it to be such that, agriculture is the opportunity somehow with significant controls to get to make us look better on the spreadsheet someplace. The appropriations process, I think, has gone well. Senator Hoeven chaired it in the last Congress. I think he did a very, very good job. We enjoy working with him, and we'll enjoy working with him and his counterpart this next Congress. I'm on the Appropriations Committee also, and so between that and my position on the Authorizing Committee, really looking forward to working with you all and see if we can continue to push agriculture forward, which is such a huge entity. It's not only, I tell people at home, it's 25% of the economy at Arkansas. But if you get out of any town of any size at all, it's probably 85 or 90%. And so it's all about rural America. Probably more than half of the counties in Arkansas, and I would say the states that you're representing, same situation, will lose population in this census. That's not a good situation because of the turnback dollars. So much of that is population based. And so don't have a lot of resources to begin with in these counties. You start pulling money out, and then you start digging this hole even deeper. So again, we're going to be working hard to keep our commodity prices going up, and then also look forward to seeing if there's some real opportunities for carbon and new markets and all of the different things that it's going to take for the agriculture sector to continue to be competitive. I'll throw in research along with that. I know how important that is. I'm an optometrist. I'm an eye doctor by training. So in a minute, we're going to ask questions. If you're having trouble with your glasses or cataracts or glaucoma, I'll be glad to give you some free advice. I tell people I like to be introduced as an optometrist. That's a respected profession. It's got a very, very high approval ratings, throughout the country, as opposed to being a senator. I think we're in the low teens right now. That's basically friends and family and people that work for you. So like I said, I'd be glad to answer any questions, Rob, that you all have.
Well, I appreciate that. And no, certainly you've been looking at these issues for a long time, both in your role there, as you pointed out, on the authorizing committee, the Ag Committee, and then on the appropriations as well. So you're in a pretty critical spot in terms of some of the resources that are going to be needed to kind of tackle the challenges that we're facing. In fact, I might turn first to kind of the climate, since that's really on the radar screen right now with the new administration's priorities, as you pointed out. I mentioned that we spoke to Senator Stabenow earlier. We also did get a chance to visit with Secretary Vilsack and some of the things that he's looking at. But I'll tie back to the hearing last year on the Growing Climate Solutions Act. I had the chance to testify at that hearing,
Yeah.
and was really noted your line of questioning to us of, which was the first, it was a key insight to what you raised earlier, and that is, what is the effect on farmers? Who is truly going to benefit here? And so wondered if you might expand on that just a little bit, because, as we look at building up private markets, potentially public operations at USDA, we know that there's also, an enormous diversity of land, of soil types, geography, as we look at farmers everywhere. And so there are, a number of questions. There's excitement about being able to tackle this head on, but also serious questions about who truly benefits from this. But if I could give you a minute to respond.
No, Rob, and again, that's really what we're trying to flesh out. And at the end of the day, with your help and the rest of the agriculture community, it's going to be such that the agricultural community benefits. But I do have some concerns. First of all, one of it is the funding. We were told there for a while that it wouldn't cost anything. Well, the reason it wouldn't cost anything was the money was coming out of the Farm Bill. So you'd have to lessen other programs in order to fund this, okay? And so my question then would be, what programs are we going to lessen? Are we going to lessen EQIP and things like that in order to pay for this program? But I'm really opposed to open the Farm Bill, period, okay? And the reason being is we come together as committee in the House and the Senate. It wasn't too long ago that the transportation folks, I'm on the Environment and Public Works Committee, transportation folks wanted to get some dollars out of the Farm Bill to pay for a new highway reauthorization program. It's a huge pot of money sitting there. And so as a result, the Ag Committee's basically said, no, under no circumstances are we going to support any bill that does that. So I think it's important not to to reopen the Farm Bill. On the other hand, we can authorize that money and appropriate it. So it's not like we can't come up with the money. Okay, it's not a sticking point. It's just let's do it the right way. Another thing that I have concern about that we're looking at is there's a committee in there, and about 25 people. When you look, there's not very many farmers on that committee. I'd like to have the committee where it is farmer heavy. Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay. The other thing too is that as you pointed out, Rob, this stuff is not easy stuff. I mean, I've read a lot of scientific literature through the years and trying to really get up to snuff, but it's complicated. You know, you can have a field, and then the adjacent field can have different factors and such where things are totally different. You could be really a great steward, and then maybe you have a weed infestation, and EPA's made it where it's difficult to use herbicides anyway, or whatever you're doing. But when you till the land, then again, that alters things, okay? So there's it's just a complicated thing. And as we come forward, this bill is all about going into, teaching people to go into the farms and then ascertain how much carbon credits can, be scored as a result of the practices that are being done. We want to get that right, okay? Because the worst thing that could happen is if we went in and we had people that didn't know what they were doing, or maybe people that, again, had other interests or whatever, but essentially didn't know what they were doing. If you oversold the carbon credit for the farm, and then somebody bought those and then, emitted based on that, and it really wasn't there, you'd be in a worse situation than you were to begin with. Does that make sense? So again, it really is complicated. What I don't want more than anything though, Rob, and we've seen this in so many different things, is you start making it complicated. Okay, you start putting the regulatory atmosphere in, you make it very complicated, you lose small farmers. They won't be able to compete. And I think that would cause increased consolidation. So like I say, I'm not saying that I'm against any of this, but these are my concerns as we go through. And I know that they're your concerns also, and the rest of the farm community. We haven't seen a new community bank now in several years because the regulatory atmosphere is so great on banks. The little bitty banks can't afford it anymore. They can't afford the regulatory atmosphere. It's not worth forming. So we don't want that to be, looking down the road 5-10 years from now regarding farming. So like I said, those are just concerns. But on the other hand, I'm very positive. I think these are things that we can overcome to get ourselves in a good position.
All right, thank you for that. One of the, we'll see, right? It as you, maybe an understatement, but it's a complicated thing.
It is complicated. But it's things that farmers are doing a good job of right now. And if they should be, if they want to go the extra mile, they should be compensated for what they're doing now. If they want to go the extra mile, need to be compensated.
Well, appreciate that recognition of the work that's being done out there. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but obviously a lot of focus right now is on that pandemic weaknesses, if you will, that's been exposed. You made reference to broadband, to telemedicine, and to some of the challenges in what was a bent but not broken food system, I think, as you characterized it. Could you expand a little bit on what you see as those areas that are in most need of kind of shoring up to build a more resilient rural community, as well as a food system?
Well, I think, as we talked about earlier, I don't think you can grow. I don't think you can prosper in today's economy if you're not wired. And so one of the things that we have to do there, we all have to demand that the maps that we have showing, who's got good service and who doesn't, that they're accurate. And sadly, I think everyone agrees that the maps are worthless. And so you talk to the FCC, whoever, we all agree with that. So people are working really, really hard in that regard. I don't think we can wait, to get that done. So we're going forward. but it's hard to solve a problem if you don't really know the extent of the problem. The other thing is that we need to up what is considered acceptable, an acceptable rate. Uh, some of what we thought was acceptable now, with the increased usages that we use for broadband, it simply is not acceptable. So we need to up everything, okay? And then also have good maps, and then just pour a significant amount of money and really empower, as I said earlier, our co-ops are getting into this. There's all kinds of technology. Really do the research and the technology so that we get ourselves in a good position. That is going to help us with things like telemedicine, which I think is going to be very, very important for rural America as we go forward. It's just healthcare is difficult. It's difficult wherever you live, but if you're out in an underserved area, it's, sometimes it's just hard to attract practitioners in those areas. We're doing better with nurse practitioners and things like that. But so many things are such that you can have a tremendous expert that can actually see if you've got some sort of a lesion or something. They can see that better than the naked eye. So again, these are things that I think offer a lot of promise. In regard to the food chain, the idea that we had a situation where, if you were in a particular sector of agriculture with the restaurants closing down, you essentially were shut down. And there was packaging problems, this and that. We have a lot of concentration in the livestock industry. As a result, we're in a situation where we had growers having to euthanize animals and things like that. The poultry industry is unique in the sense they've got their contract growers, and they had problems, not getting flocks and this and that. So there's really just a whole lot there that we need to take a look at, and just assume that, that we I don't think it's a matter of if, but when we have another pandemic with such a small world. But also, I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from that, besides just good business practices. I mentioned, the livestock industry and all the support that we're giving for, the farm to school things, all the things that are, local in nature, or food banks, but also the farmers markets. The list just goes on and on. And it would be nice if we could get around the problem of having the inspectors such that we could have more livestock markets, local livestock markets, and get a little bit more competition in the system that way.
Okay, appreciate that. And I know that we're running a little short here on time. Really appreciate the time that you've given us today. I might conclude with we've talked a lot about pandemic response and climate and some of these priorities that are kind of facing us right now. But we know that it's, although we may think that the Farm Bill is, further down the road, it always seems like it comes up, certainly in discussion sooner than we imagine. And was wondering if you could share some thoughts, kind of initial thoughts on what you think might be the approach, right, for things like improving the farm safety net, maybe even building resiliency into this next Farm Bill. Certainly, we have a host of policies that we strongly support to help out the dairy sector, trying to get a control on their kind of cycle of overproduction and low prices that is just not sustainable.
And
So,
consolidation.
exactly. It just feeds into this consolidation, as you've been talking about. So you've always been a great office to work with. Your staff is fantastic. But here in the closing, any thoughts that you might have about kind of your eye on the Farm Bill?
Well, really just that we need to go to work right now and try and establish, how we need to clean the Farm Bill up. And I think we can do that without a massive, whatever. I think, with significant tweaking here and there in the different sectors, we have the framework, like I said, to go forward. But you mentioned dairy, and that's such a great, in the state of Arkansas, we've got very few dairies now. It wasn't too long ago. I used to have a bunch of cows, polled Herefords and stuff. And I know I'm the only senator to have an AI certificate, so I don't think there's anybody in the House either. But anyway, in Arkansas, we have very few dairies. In the county that I live in, there was probably 300 dairies, not too long ago. So, but we've just seen this consolidation, and then even making it such that going to the states where the production is the very best, as opposed to some of our southern states. So we need to talk about these things and just really just kind of flesh out where we go in the future. We've dealt with problems the last couple of years that we've never had before in so many different things in agriculture. So as a result, like I said, it's just everybody working together. I'm also curious about, the administration came out with this 30 by 30, where they're going to put 30% of the land and water into conservation, by 2030. That's pretty ambitious. And so right now we're in a situation, it was hard to get people to sign up when commodity prices were low. And now commodity prices are higher, okay? Hopefully they're gonna get higher still. So how do you do that? Those are the kind of things that we need to flesh out and see if we can get on the same page of the administration. I know in places like Iowa, I think Iowa's got 1% in conservation, and they're mad about that. So again, I don't know how you do, and you have to be careful too, as you look at that, you go too far that way. The United States is not it is the major player, but it's not the only player regarding worldwide food supply like it used to be, to a large extent. And so, you don't want to get in a situation where you lose a market, which you worked so hard to get, or you get in a situation where you put lands in conservation and then you're doubling up on the other lands. So again, that's kind of like the carbon issue that we talked about, climate. It's a complicated thing. Those are the things that we need to be talking about. And then again, see if we can do a better job in the next farm bill. Nutrition also is really important. I know we're all concerned about that. So many of the child nutrition stuff, particularly the summer feeding programs, those rules go back to the 1960s. And, it's a different world, one size fits all situation. So like I say, these are things that we need to be working on. And I know that Senator Stabenow has, she has the same concerns and wants to work on them also.
Alrighty. Well,
And
thank
I know
you.
grab me by the throat periodically. So.
Well, again, I thank you so much for your time today. I know it's very valuable, and we appreciate you sharing a few moments here with farmers and ranchers across the country here. We especially appreciate your openness and willingness to hear our perspective, not just today, but on the ongoing basis. And again, your office has been great to work with. So we look forward to continuing that relationship.
We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for all you do.
All righty. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.